Adam looked around hell. That was where he was. But he had no clue where. Well, there was fire, suffering, and tortured souls. He didn't think those would work as landmarks here. Behind him, he heard roaring. It was coming. Welcome to Mythical Phylogeny Adventures. I'm your guide, Jason. Today, let's take a grand tour of hell and see what sort of attractions and people make this such a wonderful place that people are dying to get into. Let's see if you would like to join the throng and passing on to the other side. Now, you have probably heard about the 9 circles of hell. Oh, about being dragged into the lowest circle. And you're probably thinking of it as a realm of fire, fire, and more fire. But the truth be told, there is more fact to the idea of hell freezing over. The idea of hell has multiple inspirations. In Sumerian myths, the underworld Kur was a bleak place of gloom and despair. It was filled with shadows and dust, which the dead had to live on. Oh, and it had demons too. In Egypt, it was Duat. There you would face judgment and trials, such as having your heart weighed against a feather. You may also meet deities and monsters along the way. Overall, it was a place of renewal. Among the Greeks, it was called Hades, with several sections. Tartarus, which is the prison for the Titans, and house of eternal punishment for those inside. The fields of mourning for if you suffered in life. Elysium was a place for the souls of heroes to live in bliss. And the Asphodel Meadows, which is reserved for your average person. Norse mythology is similar here. Helheim is a dreary and cold place where the dead end up. Except for the honored dead, can go to Valhalla or Folkvangur, depending on a few factors. In the earliest forms of Judaism, the underworld is called Sheol. It is the land of gloom and darkness. So, similar to Kur. In fact, most of them up to this point follow this trend. From there we get Gehenna, and this is where fire comes to the underworld. Gehenna was a valley outside of Jerusalem. Mostly it was used to burn trash. But there is the Canaanite god, Moloch, who was worshipped here. And this happened to include the sacrifice of children by fire. Oh, and this god happened to have a bull's head. Remember the horns? From here, Gehenna became viewed as a place of suffering and punishment. As Greek and Roman cultures spread, they then influenced Judaism. After all of that, it has influenced the idea of what hell looks like. At least until we get to Dante Alighieri's Divine Comedy, comprised of Inferno, Purgatorio, and Paradiso. His work follows himself after being lost on the road of life. He finds himself in a dark forest, and is confronted by a leopard, a lion, and a she-wolf. But Virgil arrives to guide him to safety by taking him through the underworld. Yeah, a bit of a self-insert here. But Dante could be a rather arrogant person. He would throw anyone who he had a beef with into a circle of hell just to show them. Yeah, he was petty. The first part of hell is the vestibule, namely the gates of hell, with an infamous phrase engraved into it. Lasciate ogni pronanza voi cintrata. Or in English, abandon all hope, ye who enter here. Here you will find the souls that never committed, not good or evil, those that chose to serve themselves. They are left naked as they chase through the mists for a banner while being stung and chased by wasps and hornets. The ground is covered in maggots and worms. But this isn't even hell. First you must reach the shores of the Acheron and meet the ferryman known as Charon. Once you cross the river, you are now in hell. Congratulations! According to Dante, hell is a series of concentric rings going deeper and deeper into the earth. And the first circle of hell is Limbo. Yes, according to Dante, Limbo is really in hell, not an in-between place that many places depict it. Here you find the unbaptized, virtuous pagans. Those that either didn't accept Christ of their own choice, or from before the rise of Christianity. Honestly, this feels like a real harsh deal. These people did nothing wrong. Now Limbo is similar to the Asphodel Meadows I touched on earlier. It is kind of boring, and nothing really happens. So if you want the slow life, this is the circle for you. Their punishment is basically knowing that nothing will get better and forever living in deficit of heaven's light. Personally, I would switch the vestibule in limbo, but the reason for each is that the punishment is to be poetic. So those who never chose Christ in life are denied the choice in death, though some have left it on the day that Jesus went up to heaven. This is part of the harrowing of hell that I mentioned in the Merlin video. Afterwards, we get to the real suffering. First up is the judge, King Minos. You might remember him from the Minotaur story. Here he has taken on a serpent-like form. You will be compelled to confess your sins to him, and then he will decide where to send you. He does this by wrapping his long tail around himself. Now his requirement is that you knowingly and willfully chose to commit the sin. Now we can enter the second circle. As in life, those that submitted to acts of lust allowed themselves to be swayed. Here they will be blown around, tossed through the air by an endless and fierce storm. I am sure that it is quite the attraction, would you not agree? Never can they rest, always moving. And we shall keep moving on to the third circle. Here we find Hades' little puppy dog, Cerberus. He oversees those worthy of the sin of gluttony, overindulging in substances, not just food and drink, but other such activities. This isn't just overeating, it is eating to the point of wasting food. Cerberus will chew and maul the souls around him. Yes, those that chewed too much are chewed by the dog, but there's more. You can also enjoy wallowing in a putrid sludge produced by an endless icy rain. For their coldness in life, they're cold even now. The next stop on our tour of horrors is the fourth circle, greed. Okay, it isn't just the greedy, but also those who squander their money, reckless spenders. This region is overseen by Plutus, the god of wealth. For those who hoarded possessions in life, here they are in an endless battle where they thrust great boulders and stones at each other, attempting to crush each other. This is in part similar to Sisyphus, who had to push a boulder up a hill. But he was alone, and the greedy are competing. In life, they competed to take, you could say, and in death are thrusting their possessions upon others. If you think that is great entertainment, just wait for the fifth circle, the wrathful. Those who are violent and aggressive in life. They find themselves trapped in the river Styx, which is a mixture of mud and slime. The wrathful are compelled into an endless brawl. They were filled with anger in life, and here they get to express it. But don't think being passive-aggressive will get you out of this mess. No, you get shoved down to the bottom of this quagmire and trampled by the others. Hey, you're the one who couldn't voice yourself in life, so you don't get to in death. The easiest way to cross this is with the aid of Phylogeny, another king of Greek mythology. He'll take you across in his little boat. And here we get a separation in hell. For the next is the city of Dis. Huzzah! Civilization! Dis is another name for Hades or Pluto. Outside its walls is the Stygian marsh. Fallen angels and the Furies stand guard here. Oh, and Medusa makes her home here too. Though lodgings can be a bit tight here. Don't worry, we got the sixth circle. For the heretics. Here, they get a new, wonderful abode. A flaming tomb to be sealed in until Judgment Day. Their punishment for rejecting the doctrines of the church is to seal themselves away. It took us 6 circles, but we are finally getting some heat. The real fire is coming though. And this brings us to the 7th circle, violence. And here, the circle is divided up. In fact, the 7th circle has 3 rings within it. Violence against others, against self, and against God. The Minotaur hangs out on a rocky cliff descending into the circle. And he is still looking for Theseus, and he wishes to repeat their first round. The first ring is the Phlegethon, a boiling river of blood. How charming! Here you will find the company of murderers, tyrants, and war criminals. Now, you aren't just put into the boiling river at random. Oh no, they have designated seating. all taken care of by the ushers, the centaurs, running around and shooting arrows to make sure that no one attempts to steal another's seat. Bathed in blood and life, so are they bathed in it in the other world. If the river of boiling blood isn't your thing, how about a nice relaxing stroll through the forest of suiciders? If you decided to pluck out your own life, in death you'll be sowed as a tree, forced to grow for eternity. Oh, but unlike regular trees, these will speak and bleed when a branch is broken. And that is done by the harpies. The reason that their human form is taken from them is because your body is seen as a gift, and they just threw it away. Even after judgment, they will not get their bodies back. Forevermore, they are a tree. From there, you are greeted with an incredible sight. The plains of burning sand. Oh, what a sight to behold. Here we get fire and brimstone raining down upon the denizens. The sinners wail and weep and cower. Here you find the blasphemers, sodomites, and usurers. All are unnatural actions. Thus they are found in a place where nothing will grow. In a place of the natural rain, it is fire. Though, they even have moisture coming from the phlegethon's overflow, passing through the forest to the plains. You'll hear the great roar of a waterfall before you see it. The easiest way to descend is on the back of Charon, a giant winged monster and grandson of Medusa and Poseidon. He'll gladly give you a little lift and a scenic view as he circles the 8th circle. It is called the Malbolgi. It is formed of the 10 Bolgia, or evil ditches. Overall, this area looks like a giant amphitheater, slowly descending into the earth. But you don't need to walk through them all. There are great bridges that span the trenches. And now we get to some of the fun sports. Hell's very own Olympic Games. In the first Bolgia, you can join panderers and seducers. Those that drove others onto action are now driven forward by horned demons with whips. The participants run in 2 rows going opposite directions. If you lag, the demons will give you a good motivating whipping. The second Bolgia has you fighting in literal shit. This is reserved for flatterers, for those who told pretty lies which are nothing but. For the third Bolgia, we have the Simoniacs, or those who peddle church favors and relics. Well, they also have a wonderful form of accommodations. They are buried head down into the earth with flames burning their feet according to the level of their sin. This is meant as a crude mockery of a baptismal font. In the fourth Bolgia, we find sorcerers, fortune tellers, astrologers, and others which sought to see the future. There is a wonderful chiropractor who works here, who fully twists your head about. But once you try to see the future, now you can only look behind. Barotaurs hang out in the 5th Bolgia. They are corrupt politicians. Their sticky fingers have landed them in the ultimate mud bath, in pools of boiling pitch. If they happen to surface for too long, the demons known as the Malbranch, or evil claws, will rip and tear until they sink back to their proper place. Now these demons are rather helpful to Virgil on his tour, and even provide escort and guidance. Mind you, these demons do have a tendency to get into brawls with each other, and take baths in the boiling pitch too. However, ever since the rising of Christ and the Great Earthquake, they have failed to repair the bridge to the 6th Bolgia. Now here, we get to join the hypocrites. They aren't running around naked, but are gifted with brilliant, gilded robes to endlessly walk around the trench in. But you will quickly discover that these robes are heavy, weighed down by their own deceit. For the 7th Bolgia, we find the thieves. In life, they stole possessions from each other. Here, they must steal their very humanity. The pit is filled with serpents, lizards, and other reptiles, all writhing about. When the reptiles bite and kill a person, both are reborn by the flames. Man to snake, and snake to man. At times, they will even become entangled in their rebirthing process. In the 8th, we get to meet the counselors of fraud. They themselves never committed fraud, but instead convinced others to complete the deed. They are in fact completely innocent. Or so they say. Here, you can have your own private fire to burn in. Simply pleasant to say the least. Oh, but the sowers of discord will welcome you to the 9th Bolgia. As they divided people in life, their body is divided. They get to have a nice, long, leisurely trip around the trench. That doesn't sound too bad. Minus that there are demons who will hack and slash you, so you need to walk around the circle, dragging your wounded body. But as you go, you will heal until you are as good as new, just in time to get a rather close shave of your head being lopped off. There are 3 groups here: religious, civil, and familiar strife. The last Bolgia has the falsifiers. They are a disease upon the world, thus are blessed with oh so many diseases, including madness, thirst, hunger, and stench. Some run around lashing at those they meet, while others resign themselves to suffering. And just past that is the Well of Malbolgi, and the 9th circle for traitors and mutineers. Giants are bound to the cliffs here. Those of both Greek and Christian origins, though several are willing to lower you down to the final circle of hell. And guess what? Hell has frozen over. We have the great lake called Cocytus, where traitors are frozen, depending on their actions. It can be divided into 4 sections, called Cana, against kindred, Antenora, against country, Ptolemaea, against guests, and Judica, against the Lord. And at the center is the greatest of all traitors, a special meet and greet to be sure. The devil himself, Lucifer. A 3-headed monster who chews on 3 very special traitors: Judas Iscariot, Marcus Junius Brutus, and Gaius Cassius Longinus. Yet along Lucifer's back is a stairway to purgatory, and we actually know where the opening is. Antipolar to Jerusalem, or about Matura, Isles Australis of French Polynesia. Yeah, the devil is a prisoner here. He doesn't run the show. This is quite the trip, wouldn't you agree? What would be your favorite travel destination here? I'd book my trip somewhere else. Paradiso if I got a choice. I was debating trying to do those at the same time, but probably for the best to cover them later. Adam looked around. He wasn't sure, but he was beginning to think he had been here before. That tree looked familiar. Staring at it, he thought there was a face, but he was mistaken. He had to be. Stumbling forward, he headed towards the sound of a waterfall. Fatigue was setting in. Truly, the idea of the underworld has changed a fair bit over the millennia, and with different cultures. Though, I think I would rearrange the circles. Personally, I would place violence as a greater sin than fraud. Tell me, how would you do your version of hell? Thank you for watching, adventurers. Please return next time for the balance of sword and sorcery. Until then, I'll see you on the roads.